Topping today's news, Prime Minister Davis continues his push for carbon credits. The National Insurance Board looking to liquidate some of its assets. Police arrest a man believed to be involved in an officer stabbing. And DeAndre Ayton puts pressure on the Phoenix Suns and signs a big offer sheet with the Pacers. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. Thanks for joining us. Parliamentarians debating the Carbon Credit Trading Bill 2022 in the lower chambers Thursday morning. A monumental day for the people of the Bahamas, according to Prime Minister Philip Davis, who led off the debate. The Prime Minister noting that the proposed legislation will allow the government to tap into a completely new source of revenue that will put the Bahamas at an advantage, as the funds will be used to assist with financial challenges faced as a result of climate change. Arla Sebastian has more details in this report.
The world will now mark the manner of our burial as we embrace the mantle of global leadership with this transformative initiative.
Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Philip Davis foreshadowing the success of the Bahamas' carbon market as he led off debate on the Carbon Credit Trading Bill 2022 in the House of Assembly this morning. The New Day government making history, positioning the country as the first in the world that will sell blue carbon credits as it relates to seagrass on the carbon market. The Prime Minister telling parliamentarians today that the Bahamas has positioned itself as a world leader on the issue, noting that since coming to office, his administration has made it a priority for the Bahamas to be a leading voice on the perils of climate change and how the world can better respond to the plight of small island developing states.
There were those who may have doubted the ability of the Bahamas, with its population of just roughly 400,000 people, to be respected as a leading voice on the world stage. I don't blame the doubters for lacking imagination. You see, Madam Speaker, compared to the juggernauts that are the global superpowers, it is easy to believe that our contribution would be inconsequential. After all, why should they listen to little old us? In our blueprint for change, we made a commitment to better manage and leverage our natural resources for the benefit of the Bahamian people. One of the key pledges we made was to secure carbon credit payments for our natural resources in recognition of the fact that we, along with our Caribbean neighbors, are a major carbon sink for the world. It only follows that we should benefit from our role in cleaning the Earth's atmosphere and absorbing the greenhouse gases being produced by global superpowers.
While the government is still analyzing the role of the Bahamas' marine ecosystems as carbon sinks and determining their monetary value, Prime Minister Davis contends that early indications suggest they are valuable, so plans are already in the works if there is to be any revenue from carbon.
Our first use of any revenues generated from carbon credits will be to ensure the survival of these vital systems so that they continue to protect future generations of Bahamians. I want the Bahamian people to understand what a novel undertaking this is. Carbon credits themselves are a relatively new concept for the world, with 2021 being a year of increased interest and growth for carbon markets.
The Carbon Trading Bill 2022 intends to register and regulate businesses wishing to operate and do business in the carbon credit space, register and regulate carbon trading exchanges, and it permits a carbon credit to be linked to a digital asset under the DARE Act or other financial instruments like an option swaps and future contracts. As carbon credits are an emerging market, and with the Bahamas being the first in the world to benefit from blue carbon credits, there are unknowns and risks involved. Therefore, the government has entered into a heads of agreement with non-governmental organization Beneath the Wave to assist with navigating the complex landscape.
They have also proposed that the government own 49% of the Bahamas-based management company, Carbon Management Limited, with 2% being held by local NGOs. I want to be clear. This heads of agreement ensures that the government not only receives 85% of any potential revenue, but we also receive 49% of the management company's downstream revenue from fees and any other revenue derived by the management company by the sale of carbon credits in what we call the secondary markets.
According to the Prime Minister, the government is also exploring the opportunity of establishing a carbon exchange with cryptocurrency giant FTX, where it intends to trade carbon credits. For JCN News, I'm Lucy Bastian.
Thanks for that report, Lucy. While a guest panelist at the 2022 Concordia Americas Summit, along with Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Prime Minister Philip Davis lamented developed and industrialized countries' insensitivity to small island developing states. Prime Minister Davis says if there is one thing the COVID-19 pandemic has taught him, that is that developed countries were not as sensitive as they ought to have been to small island developing states like the Bahamas.
So I had to remind the industrialized world and the major economies that with the pandemic, we thought that we were, as a small island developing states, we were not having access to vaccines, and they were, in our view, hoarding vaccines because they were looking after their people, and maybe self-survival is mother's first nature, they said. But what we have to remind each other, which I reminded them, is that, they will not be safe unless we are all safe. Meaning that they need to share the vaccine, because their people whom they are protecting will come to our shores. And if they come to our shores, they're likely to be exposed to the virus, just unless we too are safe and are protected against it.
Prime Minister Davis went on to note that the pandemic also exposed all countries, particularly in the Caribbean region, are dependent on each other. The pandemic therefore heightened the need for other small island developing countries in the region to be more cooperative and more engaging with one another, and to be one voice to larger nations of the world. Now, also coming out of the panel discussion was the importance of the Bahamas reducing our carbon footprint, as the country is among the top 10 countries to be affected by climate change, with the Bahamas being one of the major carbon sinks of the world. According to Prime Minister Davis, the government is now in conversation to begin to receive compensation for our part in collecting debris from the air.
One of the major and significant carbon sink of the world. And so I've indicated to some of my people, we have been collecting the garbage out of the air because of our seagrass, mangroves, but we're not being paid for it. So we are now engaging the voluntary market, and we're going to tie that to the crypto space as well, so that we'll be continuing to innovate to see how we can have what I call revenue sources, try to we'll make the industrialized world more accountable for their actions. And we'll be continuing along those lines. But it is for us, and it is to continue to stick together, stay together, and let those who are responsible for the consequences that we are now suffering pay for it.
With the national debt at $1.7 billion, Prime Minister Davis says more than 50% of that is the direct result of consequences of climate change.
Adaptation and mitigation, we have to borrow to recover. borrow to restore, to bring back the country to normalcy. And but now, all we have are pledges and pledge fatigue. And hopefully by this COP27 coming up, we'll see more real action from the world.
NIB is in disinvesting mode. That revelation coming from Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister, Miles Laroda, who also holds responsibility for the National Insurance Board. The State Minister tabled the 10th actuarial evaluation of 2018 and the 11th for 2019 in the lower chamber on Wednesday morning. The 10th review gives the results of the fund, conclusions and recommendations as of December 31st, 2013, and includes projections until 2088, while the 11th focuses on results as of December 31st, 2018, and gives projections until 2078. Minister Laroda noted that income exceeded expenditure between 2013 and 2015. However, expenditures exceed income in each of the final years or financial years starting 2016 to date.
This trend will continue and the deficits will become larger. Funding policy, relevant only if sustained contribution rate increases are implemented. Investment diversification, it is needed, but NIB is currently in disinvesting mode. Investments are being liquidated in order to pay expenditure. These are the recommendations, Madam Speaker.
Minister Laroda says to adequately finance the long-term pension branch and in order to make the scheme sustainable in the short term, an increase in contributions is necessary and should start now.
The report provides options on how much and how often the contribution rate should be increased. Once the short-term sustainability of the National Insurance Board is fixed, other recommendations could be applied to make the scheme more comprehensive and sustainable over the long term.
Also from the House of Assembly, Shadow Minister of Finance Kwesi Thompson calling Minister of Transport and Housing Jobeth Colby Davis' responses to questions posed on housing funds simply unsatisfactory. After raising many questions about the Ministry of Housing entering into a $20 million loan agreement, the East Grand Bahama Member of Parliament is still asking the minister to clarify the legitimacy of the agreement with the company called Simplified Lending and Proven Wealth Management. He is requesting she lay a copy of the agreement on the table of the House of Assembly. In response to Mr. Thompson's request, Minister Colby Davis referred to the Housing Act, saying the Minister of Housing is permitted to carry out business regarding housing development.
Will the Honourable Minister advise this Honourable House as to whether the Ministry of Housing entered into a $20 million loan agreement with a company called Simplified Lending and Proven Wealth Management? 2, will the Minister name the principles of Simplified Lending and Proven Wealth Management? 3, will the Minister lay a copy of the agreement with Simplified Lending and Proven Wealth Management on the table of the House? Will the Honourable Minister advise this Honourable House as to why the disbursements of the loan proceeds or any portion of the related area were not in the 2022-2023 budget estimates?
Minister Colby Davis says the ministry entered into a funding agreement with a Bahamian Wealth Management Fund, contending that present matters of sensitive nature are not tabled in the House but will be revealed at a later date. When speaking on the interest rates of the agreement, she says this.
It's a tremendous step of innovation for the Bahamas, because not only are we now regulating an industry, but we are now participating in that industry, actively participating in that industry for the benefit of Bahamians. Before, at least with respect to the DARE Act, we are regulators. We are telling people to come to our jurisdiction. We are a well-regulated jurisdiction so that you can come and operate. But in this aspect, We are telling folks that you can come. We are regulating the trading of carbon credits, but we are also becoming participants in this industry.
Now, the opposition says the questions asked were relevant questions that did not receive adequate answers. They intend to continue pressuring Minister Kobe Davis on this matter until she provides all of the relevant facts and answers to each of their questions asked.
Just because the government maintains or is able to obtain revenue from an item, that revenue then presumably goes into the consolidated fund. That revenue, in fact, that revenue may not even hit the ordinary Bahamian, because that revenue may go back directly into the industry or into that asset to maintain that asset or to encourage that asset. There is a difference between giving Bahamians, the ordinary Bahamians, the opportunity to be able to personally benefit from the natural resources of all Bahamians.
Police are investigating the country's latest shooting after a man was shot multiple times about the body while visiting a friend in Kennedy Subdivision Thursday morning. Police Press Liaison Officer, Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings, give these details.
Okay, so it was shortly before 10 a.m. when we were alerted of a shooting in the Kennedy Subdivision. Police responded, and on arrival, met a male with multiple gunshot injuries to his body. What we understand is that the victim was here visiting a friend, and as he was about to leave, a white vehicle pulled alongside the victim. A lone gunman exited that vehicle, which resulted in the victim being shot multiple times.
Chief Superintendent Skipping says the victim is currently in hospital in critical condition. She gives this appeal to the public and residents of Kennedy Subdivision.
At this time, we're getting conflicting information as to what type of vehicle it is, and so I'm not going to say a particular until we have definitely confirmed which type of vehicle it is. But we do know it is a white vehicle, and so we also want to appeal to residents in this community as well. If you saw a white vehicle leaving from this area, please contact us and give us a call at 911-919, or contact the Criminal Investigation Department at 502-9991 or 9992. And again, I'd also like to say, if you want to give me a call, Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings, you can contact me or send me a text.
Chief Superintendent Skipping says police are here to help. She gives these words of encouragement to those who may be experiencing conflicts even within the family.
What I want to say to members of the public, a lot of times shootings occur because of conflicts. And I want to encourage family members. I want to encourage siblings. I want to encourage every citizen of this country. If you know that there is a conflict between two individuals, we're asking you to kindly notify your police department. We want to pull these individuals in, have a conversation with them, and see how best we can resolve the matters that they may be confronted with as young people in this country.
Police say additional details on this incident will be revealed soon as investigations are ongoing. Police urging the public to be extremely vigilant when meeting strangers on social media platforms, and this cautioning comes as police investigate an alleged rape of a female in western New Providence. According to reports, the victim was visiting the Bahamas when she connected with a male who she met on social media. The alleged rape reportedly took place around 7 p.m. on Tuesday. Police say they are actively searching for the male that is responsible. Investigations continue. Meantime, a 19-year-old male of Augusta Street is being questioned by police in connection with a shooting incident that occurred on Wednesday morning on Dumping Ground Corner. That shooting incident left a 22-year-old with injuries, the 22-year-old of the same area with injuries to his leg. According to reports, around 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, a male was leaving his residence when he was approached by a male known to him. The suspect reportedly produced a handgun and pointed it in the direction of the victim, who ran but was subsequently shot. He was later treated at the Princess Margaret Hospital and discharged. Officers of the Mobile Division subsequently arrested the suspect shortly afterwards for this incident. Active police investigations continue. And police believe they have the person responsible for the stabbing of a high-ranking police officer during the early hours of Monday at the Independence Day Junkanoo rush hour downtown. New police press liaison officer Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings, in a statement Thursday morning, says a 21-year-old male is in police custody. According to the police reports, on Monday, July 11th, while in the area of Bay and Frederick Street, officers observed a group of males attacking a 29-year-old man and they intervened. You're looking at video from that incident, which resulted in the stabbing of a police officer whom National Security Minister Wayne Munro later identified as Chief Superintendent Marino Hines. Police say officers acting on intelligence arrested the 21-year-old at around 1:40 p.m. Wednesday at a residence on Hay Street. Police also arrested a 42-year-old female resident of the home for deceit to a public officer and obstruction. Active police investigations continue. We'll take a break here, and we'll be right back after these commercials.